Hi, welcome to AutoCAD Customizing the Keyboard from our Tips, Tricks and Tactics video series. The keyboard is one of the easiest items to customize in AutoCAD, and in my many years of CAD management experience, one of the most productive. Many AutoCAD users are reasonably good at using the keyboard and can get to commands quicker than many of the other customizing options. We're going to look at 3 different ways of customizing the keyboard inside AutoCAD. The first method is by customizing the PGP or Program Parameters file. The second method is by customizing the CUI or Customize User Interface file. And the third and last method is by creating an LSP or AutoLISP file. So in this session, let's look at the LSP file. One very important note is that Lisp is not available in LT, so this video only applies to AutoCAD users. Before we look at AutoLISP, you should be aware that the only real complaint that people have about the AutoCAD PGP file is that they're limited to the top level of the command only. Whilst the only real complaint that people have about using the CUIX file is that you have to use unusual key combinations that are not necessarily intuitive. Whereas using AutoLISP means we can make a shortcut that will not only call up the circle command, for example, but also the 2P, 3P or TTR option as well. The list of possibilities goes on and on. Let's look at the first setup for creating a keyboard Lisp file. It is if you are a standalone user working on your PC with no server. Create a new folder on your C drive with a subfolder, say called CAD Library, and another subfolder under that called Lisp. We will create the file into here. The next thing to do is in AutoCAD, go into the options and add this new file path towards the top of your support paths, so that AutoCAD finds and uses this folder and its files early. A rule for adding Lisp to a folder is that in the options you have to come down to the trusted locations and add your folder here. You will be prompted to make a read-only folder so as to protect it by AutoCAD. So remember to switch this off and on when editing or adding more Lisp files to your folder. The second setup for creating a keyboard Lisp file is if you are a network user working on your PC with a server and you have to use the same company customized Lisp file. Here we can create a new folder on the server. In this example, your S drive with a subfolder, again called CAD Library, and another subfolder under that called Lisp. We can create the file into here. The next thing to do is to go into the AutoCAD options and add the new file path towards the top of your support paths so that AutoCAD finds and uses this folder and its files early. Remember, if this file is edited, it affects all users, so it's normally managed by the CAD manager. The same rule for adding your folder to the trusted locations folder applies as before. The third setup for creating a keyboard Lisp file is if you are a network user working on your PC with a server and you're allowed to work on your own customized LSP file. More often than not, users have a personal drive on the server, normally the H drive. Create a subfolder, again called CAD Library, and another subfolder under that called Lisp. Copy the file into here. The next thing to do is in AutoCAD. Go into options and add this new path towards the top of your support paths so that AutoCAD finds and uses this folder and its files early. Remember, this file can be customized by each individual user to suit their own requirements, and any editing does not affect other users. The same rule for adding your folder to the trusted locations folder applies as before. Now there is no standard list file that comes with AutoCAD to customize the keyboard, so we have to create one. There are two methods we can use to do this, by using NotePad or using AutoCAD's inbuilt Visual LISP Editor. Let's look how to create and use this LSP file. The first method we are going to look at involves editing the file using NotePad. So open NotePad and save this file as keyboard.lsp. And we'll save that into the CAD library Lisp folder. Now I'm going to introduce you to some very basic AutoLISP. AutoLISP is a programming language containing lots of brackets that basically define each section of the command. So let's get started. Defun C: defines a command. The next letters are the command itself. So I'm going to type 2p. This is what you would type at the command line if you were trying to call it up. Standard AutoLISP would then have a couple of brackets where we would normally define any local or global variables. We have none. This is a very simple routine, so we'll leave that blank. Starting another set of brackets, we will call up a command. So we are able to call up AutoCAD commands within Lisp by using the command option. Now, I have to put speech marks in. I'm going to put dot, circle and close the speech marks. Now you might be wondering why I put the dot in. Well, the dot's there in case anyone has redefined the circle command in any other Lisp routines or whatever, or used the undefined command. Using the dot ensures that my routine uses the standard circle command. So I'm going to just finish this off with 2p, close the bracket for the command, close the bracket for the Lisp routine, and we can save that. Okay, let's go back to AutoCAD. In the ribbon menu, we'll go to Manage, under Applications, Load Application. This brings up the Load Unload Applications dialog box. You simply locate your new Lisp routine, in this case the keyboard Lisp, and hit Load. Okay, let's just try it out. If I type 2p, I've now got 2-point circle. Okay, that's very easy, but that's how it works. Now let's look at the second method for editing an LSP file using the AutoCAD Visual LISP Editor. Let's go back to AutoCAD. You can access the Visual LISP Editor in the ribbon menu under Manage, Applications, we're already there, and the Visual LISP Editor. Now it's opened our keyboard Lisp file. Notice the use of colours in this editor make it easier to write AutoLISP routines, especially larger ones where one missing bracket or speech mark can just make the whole thing fail. We're going to add another line of code for a 3-point circle. So let's do that. To the end here. Again, I'm going to define a new command. This time I'll call it 3p, no variables. Call up the command of circle, and this time 3p, and we'll save that. And just out of interest, look what happens. Can you imagine if this was hundreds of lines of code and I've missed one speech mark? Let's do that one. Watch what happens to the colours. See how everything changes? This assists you in finding where there are any mistakes. So even though NotePad is there, the Visual LISP Editor is a miles better option. So I'll save that and close it. So if we go to Load Application and reload that routine with its new amendments, I've still got my 2p there, and of course now I've got 3p. So there you go, a lot easier to use than what you'd think. So right now, having used this load application, if we shut down AutoCAD the keyboard list file won't be loaded and we have to keep coming up every time we restart AutoCAD to load it. However, if I come up to the load application and come to this area here with the startup suite, let's call that up. Anything I add into this startup suite will automatically load every time I start AutoCAD. So I'm going to add my keyboard list file here, close and close. So now I can shut down AutoCAD, restart it, and the keyboard list automatically loads every time. So now you know two different methods for creating basic AutoLISP routines using NotePad and AutoCAD's Visual LISP Editor. So in closing, if you want more information about customizing your keyboard or need assistance in setting it up, do not hesitate to contact Interscale at any time. Until next time, thank you.